Hello, welcome to Walk in the Park. My name is Tony Ingram, and this week, let's see, where are we here? Episode 51, recorded on August 7th, 2013. If you want to see all our episodes, my episodes, you can go to walkinpark.com, my blog, and you can find them all there. Do a search for Walk in the Park shows, as well as lots of other neat postings and so forth. So we got a lot of things to do today. It's been an interesting summer. And the weather has been one of the interesting things about it. It's been wetter than some of the other summers. Last summer was quite dry, and we had a lot of effects from that. But this summer now we've been having a little bit too much water. But there's also interesting skies it's given us, like a lot of rainbows. I was driving a couple of weeks ago down towards Ithaca through Seneca County and got this rainbow at the end of the road and over Cayuga Lake. And here's another storm, another time, a couple of friends swimming in their pond with a rainbow behind them. But no pictures as good as these taken by my friend Bill Hecht, who, I don't know, not that maybe a week or so ago, and over Cayuga Lake. And he likes to fly up in airplanes and take amazing pictures. And this is my favorite one he took that evening over Sheldrake Point. That incredible rainbow there with that rain cloud passing from the west to east. So Sheldrake Point, where's that? Well, that's up the west shore of Cayuga Lake. It's north of Trumansburg. It's into Seneca County. It's sort of in between Taganek and Aurora, which is on the east shore. So you can see it from Aurora, Sheldrake Point on the west shore. There's a nice winery down there and so forth. A little town park down the end of it. Okay. Well, I should get back to my regular screen here. Something else that is going on right now, every year this happens, is in Japan, in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, is a day of praying for peace, people gathering at parks, in peace parks in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and acknowledging and urging the world to move away from aggression, move away from nuclear weapons and weapons of mass destruction and so forth. And to speak to that, I actually have a news report from NHK World, which is online, and I'm going to go to that. So we'll have a couple of minutes looking at that.
The people of Hiroshima are remembering one of the most horrific days in history. 68 years ago, the crew of a U.S. plane dropped an atomic bomb on their city. It was the first time a nuclear device had been used in an attack. The survivors are growing old, and many are desperate to pass along their stories. NHK World's Hiro Morita reports from Hiroshima.
People from Hiroshima perform this rite every year. They gather with visitors from around the world. Together, they reflect on the events for which this city is known.
もっと知りたいのです。
We want to know more, the reality of the atomic bombing, the thoughts of the survivors. We want to spread these ideas far and wide.
More than 50,000 people attended the Hiroshima Peace Memorial Ceremony. They came to remember the day in 1945 when their city was destroyed. People here stop every year at 8:15 in the morning, the time the bomb was dropped. The bomb killed tens of thousands of people in an instant, 140,000 by the end of the year. The mayor of Hiroshima placed a list of the victims in the cenotaph. It contained the names of more than 5,800 people who died over the past year, or who are now known to have died because of the bombing. More than 280,000 people are now honored in the vault.
An atomic bomb steals the lives of innocent people. It permanently alters the lives of those who survive it. It stalks their bodies to the end of their days. The atomic bomb is the ultimate inhumane weapon, an absolute evil.
Matsui asked Japanese government officials to strengthen ties with other nations and lead the way toward abolishing nuclear weapons. Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said Japanese have a duty as citizens of the only country to have come under attack by atomic bombs.
We have a responsibility to make a world without nuclear weapons.
But Japanese leaders have not been very cooperative. Delegates from more than 70 countries met in April at a nuclear non-proliferation treaty conference in Geneva. They agreed on a statement that called nuclear weapons inhumane. Those from Japan refused to sign. Still, survivors of the bombing in Hiroshima believe if they share their experiences, people will join their push for a world free of nuclear weapons. And they hope that their stories will live on. Hiro Morita, NHK World, Hiroshima.
People in Japan will pause again on Friday. They and visitors from elsewhere will gather to remember the atomic bombing on the city of Nagasaki. We'll have live coverage of that memorial beginning at 10:30 a.m. Japan time.
Okay. Well, that domed building, that arch building was what they call a cenotaph, and that's where they keep the names of the victims who are continuing to die from the effects of atomic bombing. So we do well to think these days, August 6th through August 9th, of those terrible days, the end of World War II, and the nuclear sword of Damocles that hangs over our heads even today, although we don't think as much about it as we did during the Cold War. It's still an enormous danger to all of us. Well, let's move off from that and go look at something more cheerful, which is some of the things that have been going on in our parks, namely concerts. Some of them are parks, some of them are places that are sort of turned into parks, like Cornell Arts Quad or the downtown Ithaca. Usually on the Ithaca Commons, there's a summer concert series. It's been moved down to the first block of West State Street, just beyond the Commons, because of course the Commons is being rebuilt this summer. And so we'll go to also to Taganic Falls State Park and their summer concert series. So we'll just look at some highlights of those concert series here for fun.
Destination unknown.
Okay. So one thing that you might wonder, looking at those titles of those bands, is the Evil City String Band. They're really quite good. But where did they get that name, Evil City? Well, I'm not sure, but it could be from a website that was created by somebody, we don't know who, a few years ago. In fact, we'll go see what they, some pictures from their website. Let's see, I'm going to read from News 10 Now in 2004. Ithaca was once called America's most enlightened city, but now a group is using an internet site to call it something very different, the City of Evil. Of course, it's also lately been called America's smartest city, although other places have also gotten that label. Anyway, the site is run by the group Behind Liberal Lines. It lists reasons why Ithaca is the City of Evil. It includes everything from the fact that the city once had a socialist mayor, that was Ben Nichols, to the fact that Ithaca is home to Lucifer Falls, that's the big waterfall in Robert Treman State Park. The site also takes a stab at local politics, bashing the stronghold of the Green Party has had in the area and poking fun at political leaders. Quote, what they said on their site is the country now has a chairman who's a former, well, the county now has a chairman who is a former anti-war activist. Well, yes, current anti-war activist too. And that's one of the interesting things about the site, is that it's all they need to say for them. They don't feel the need to argue any issues or the validity of ideas, but to simply say, he's a liberal, point proven. That was the chair of the Tompkins County Legislature, Tim Joseph, who since went on to become the regional director of the Finger Lakes State Parks and has just recently left that post. So no contact information is listed on the Ithaca is Evil website, and we were unable to find out who runs it. But they are trying to make money off the idea by selling Ithaca is the City of Evil bumper stickers, t-shirts, and even barbecue aprons. So Ithaca, the City of Evil, the Evil City String Band. So if you were wondering, that's what it is. So if that does anything to fuel your paranoia, well, so be it. Okay, so now we're going to actually go away from Ithaca a little bit. We're going to go to Victor, New York, and that's a town about 10 miles northwest of Canandaigua and 18 miles southeast of Rochester. And it's in the technically in the Finger Lakes State Park region because there is a state historic site there. The only state historic site in the Finger Lakes State Park region, and the only state historic site in New York that's dedicated to the history and interpretation of Native peoples. So the end of every July, they have their annual Native American Dance and Music Festival, and I was able to get to it this year. Hadn't been there in a few years, so that was fun to go down. They have, well, you can see the two pictures there, the two artists, two performers that were there. Jennifer Kreisberg in particular impressed me. She's a Tuscarora woman. Obviously not a Tuscarora name that she's using there, but that is her name. And she has an amazing voice and trained in Iroquois singing that comes deep from inside, and it's just extraordinary, bone-chilling sort of sound that we're very lucky to hear. So anyway, the festival is spread out over the historic site's grounds. They have a huge tent where they have performances, and there's a crafts fair and lots of other things going on there that are fun. So the end of every July, check that out. They have they have native craftspeople with authentic goods. These are eagle sculptures made out of moose antlers. I think this fellow actually comes up from Canada. Comes down from Canada. Excuse me. One of the most interesting things. Let's see. Here's some other crafts. But there's a big crafts fair going on there. That's a lot of fun. One of the most interesting things at Ganondagan State Historic Site is their full-scale replica of an 17th century Iroquois or Seneca longhouse, that is. This was a Seneca town, actually the largest Seneca town at the time. The Seneca are one of the 6 nations of the Iroquois Confederacy, and they are the keepers of the western door, they say. And they traditionally lived in these bark longhouses that were covered with elm bark. This doesn't have elm bark on it now, it has simulated bark, because the elm was killed by the Dutch elm disease during the last century. But you can go in either end, and inside there are all kinds of reproduced artifacts, reproduced specimens of cultural objects of the time. And there were state park interpretive staff there who were of Native American heritage, who were explaining the longhouse and the items that were in them. It was very interesting to go to. So if you get a chance to go to Ganondagan, even not in festival time, but weekends particularly, I think they're on duty, and you can get tours of the longhouse, and they have other tours, other trails and so forth there. This is looking at the top of the longhouse and the smoke holes, and that chain of it's actually corn braided together. The corn cobs have been taken off, but normally they would hang their corn braided together like that through the winter, I guess. And there are a number of other features on the site. There are particularly interpretive trails, a small visitor center, and there are wayside signs, wayside exhibits like this one, which was on the way back from the longhouse. And an interesting thing, a lot of people don't realize that the status of women in Iroquois society, or Haudenosaunee as they call themselves, people of the longhouse, that means, it was different than in European society. So I'm going to read this to you. The equality of Haudenosaunee or Iroquois women was assured from the formation of the Confederacy. The first person to accept the peacemaker's message was a woman, Jikonsese. She secured the rights, responsibilities, and roles of Haudenosaunee women to continue to enjoy. Matrilineal heritage in Haudenosaunee society, where clan and nation are inherited through mothers, establishes great respect for women's contributions to society. The freedom of Haudenosaunee women and the power they wielded in their political life influenced the women's suffrage movement through leaders such as Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Matilda Jocelyn Gage, and Lucretia Mott. Their personal relationships with people from the Haudenosaunee Nation, because they were over in Seneca Falls back in the mid-1800s, were a great inspiration to them in their suffrage campaign. And at the bottom it says, a balance of power. Haudenosaunee women and men have complementary roles. By sharing and checking one another's responsibilities, the clan mother and the chief achieve a balance of power. Through their entwined civil roles, they work to preserve peace for the clan, the nation, and ultimately for the Confederacy of the Six Nations. So there's all kinds of interpretive exhibits like that around the site that you can learn so much from. One of the most popular is the Earth is Our Mother Trail, formerly known as the Ethnobotanical Trail, but that wasn't quite as an accessible name. But it goes through the site and shows you, stops at various trees and plants and particular little eco-locations, and explains their meaning and use, name, and so forth in Haudenosaunee society of the 17th century. So 1687, the site was destroyed by a French and Huron army. Okay, so we're going to go now to look at a little video again, this time of Iroquois social dancers in the big tent in the site there. So we'll go back to the big tent. There's the big tent. Okay, so in that tent was social dancing going, which they can share with the public. And actually we got involved. It doesn't show us there, but I did get up on stage. They invited people to come up on stage, and they did some call and response and things like that. So we're looking at a little bit of Iroquois social dancing.
Responsibilities, those things that they're contributing to this way of life that you and I know. And the fish are a part of that. So our next one is called Genzaino Oino, or it's the fish dance. And it's been said that this one and one we call the old moccasin dance, Arthur Murray saw it, and Arthur Murray copied it when he created the Charleston. So if you watch our footsteps, you're going to see that. This is a partner dance. There's a man in front and a man at the back, and two women will fill in the middle. And at one point in the dance, we're going to change position. The women will go to the outside, the men will go to the inside. So this is Ganzaino.
Okay, so that's a lot of fun. They're going to be coming next month to Ithaca to DeWitt Park, or at least there will be a number of different Haudenosaunee people coming to, and some of them from Ganondagan, coming to DeWitt Park for their First Peoples Festival. I think it's on the second day. It's on the weekend where we have the Apple Fest. Is it next month or the beginning of October? We can't remember. But anyway, this fall, look for that. And last year they had social dancing and a lot of different things going on. So another chance to catch some Native American culture and learn a little bit more about the folks that were on this land for thousands of years and still are. Okay, I was going to go to a very exotic place to our north, which is up in northern, well, this is Canada you see there. We're down the lower right, just the right of Lake Ontario there in New York, but this is Newfoundland and Labrador, one of the provinces of Canada, and way up in northern Labrador, the upper part of that, the very upper part is called the Ungava Peninsula, and there is a park up there, a national park called Torngat Mountains National Park. And I was going to take some time to go there, but really don't have that much time. I'll show you a few pictures of it. I was very excited about this place in college when I was in the Cornell Outing Club, and I was interested in wild and woolly places. Well, these are fjords. This is Cyclic Fjord on the edge of the Labrador Sea. And then up in the mountains actually get up over 5,000 feet high. They're pretty amazing. And but not very many people get there. This is the end of Cyclic Fjord. There's a couple of different arms of it, and it reaches back into the mountains. And then there's something called the Gorge Plateau, which slopes to the west into towards Hudson Bay, I guess. in Quebec. So I'm not going to get much of a chance to look at that here. We'll you have to get there by boat, and there are cruises that go there. You can go hiking, and you can take an airplane in. There's planes that fly in. You can take a special charter and go hiking there. But not many people get in there. There are a couple of herds of caribou, polar bears. It's a pretty woolly place, and there are some native Inuit people that do get some jobs and so forth from working in there in the summer. But you only go in there for about 2 months, from the middle of July to the middle of September, and then winter closes in. So that's all I've got today time for. So thank you very much for joining us for Walk in the Park. We'll see you again next time.